In July 1996, Death Valley National Park became the setting for one of America's most haunting survival mysteries. A German family's road trip turned into a desperate struggle against nature. Death Valley experiences extreme summer temperatures. July 1996 saw 40 days over 120 degrees Fahrenheit and 105 days over 110 degrees Fahrenheit, turning the landscape into a crucible for unprepared visitors. The family ventured into Anvil Canyon, a remote area east of Willow Spring. By 1994, it was an official wilderness zone, prohibiting public vehicles on its rough, unpaved tracks. The family included Egbert Rimkus, 34, his 11-year-old son Georg Weber, Rimkus's 27-year-old girlfriend Cornelia Meyer, and her 4-year-old son Max Meyer. They were from Dresden, Germany. The group arrived in the United States on July 8, 1996, at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, then flew to Los Angeles. There, they rented a green 1996 Plymouth Voyager minivan. Their trip began with time in San Clemente, Southern California, followed by a stay at the Treasure Island Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Security footage from July 20th showed them healthy and in good spirits. On July 21, the family was last confirmed sighted in the Mojave Desert town of Baker. This marked their entry point into the more remote desert regions, just before their final destination. The family drove into Death Valley National Park on July 22, 1996. They purchased German-language copies of the Death Valley National Monument Museum text at the Furnace Creek Visitor Center. They spent their first night camping in Hanaupa Canyon near Telescope Peak. The next day, July 23rd, they visited various tourist sites and signed a visitor's log at an abandoned mining camp. Cornelia Meyer's entry in the visitor log stated they would be headed over the pass, likely indicating Mengel Pass. This cryptic message later became a key detail for investigators. Later, a U.S. flag taken from the geologist's cabin in Butte Valley was discovered in their rental van. This confirmed they had also visited this remote location, adding to their convoluted route. The prevailing theory suggests a tragic navigation error. Without standard GPS in 1996 rental cars, they likely relied on paper maps that showed an apparent shortcut through the park. This shortcut, a route connecting Warm Spring Canyon to the eastern exit, was impassable for a standard rental minivan. What looked reasonable on paper was a death trap on the ground. The family drove their rental minivan deep into Anvil Canyon. It became hopelessly stuck in soft, fine sand, rendering it immobile miles from any paved road or civilization. When the minivan was discovered months later, the doors were unlocked, and personal belongings remained inside. However, the keys were gone, adding to the mystery of their departure from the vehicle. In the initial hours, the family likely made desperate attempts to free their stranded vehicle. Shoveling sand, rocking the car, efforts that quickly drained strength and water in extreme heat. Water is paramount in the desert. As hours turned into days, their initial water supply, likely insufficient for the extreme conditions, would have rapidly diminished, fueling growing panic. With daytime temperatures in 1996 reaching up to 125 degrees Fahrenheit, staying in the vehicle became a sweltering oven. The family had to contend with overwhelming heat inside and outside the van. As their situation worsened, the realization dawned that they were utterly alone, miles from help. The vast, silent desert offered no signs of rescue, only an oppressive sense of isolation. Facing certain death by staying, the adults made the agonizing decision to leave the perceived safety of the van. Their destination, a distant hope, was to find help on foot. The most heartbreaking aspect was the presence of Max, 4, and Georg, 11. Enduring the extreme conditions of Death Valley was unimaginably difficult, even for seasoned adults, let alone children. Their focus would have shifted entirely to finding water. Every gully, every rock formation, every dry wash would have been scoured in a desperate, ultimately futile, search for life-sustaining liquid. As dehydration set in, their physical and mental capacities rapidly deteriorated. Confusion, dizziness, and extreme fatigue would have made every step an immense, painful effort in the overwhelming heat. The last confirmed date of the family's activity was July 23, 1996, at the abandoned mining camp. Their struggle for survival in the wilderness began shortly after this entry. The family had booked a flight from Los Angeles International Airport to return to Germany on July 27, 1996. However, there was no evidence that they boarded the flight. Egbert Rimkus's ex-wife, Heike Weber, became increasingly concerned when he and their son, Georg, did not return from their vacation. She began inquiring about their whereabouts. Heike Weber's inquiries eventually triggered an official search. However, the vastness of Death Valley, covering over 3.4 million acres of brutal terrain, made initial comprehensive searches nearly impossible. Months later, on October 21, 1996, the family's rental minivan was discovered. Death Valley National Park Ranger Dave Brenner spotted it from a helicopter during an aerial surveillance mission. Ranger Brenner was surprised to see a standard passenger minivan so deep in Anvil Canyon, about 2.4 miles downstream from Willow Spring. It was an area where only off-road vehicles should venture. Despite an intense search and rescue operation following the minivan's discovery, no trace of the family was found. The initial search was eventually called off, leaving their fate a mystery. For 13 long years, the disappearance of the Death Valley Germans remained a haunting mystery. The vast desert held its secrets, giving no answers to the grieving family back in Germany. However, the case captivated some dedicated individuals. Two volunteer searchers, Tom Mahood and Les Walker, continued independently searching for clues, refusing to let the mystery die. Finally, in 2009, over a decade after the initial disappearance, Tom Mahood and Les Walker made a critical breakthrough. They discovered the remains of two family members. The discovered remains were identified as those of Egbert Rimkus, the 34-year-old father, and Cornelia Meyer, the 27-year-old girlfriend. Their final resting place was many miles southeast of the minivan. Despite the significant discovery, the remains of the two children, 11-year-old Georg Weber and 4-year-old Max Meyer, were never found. Their ultimate fate remains an agonizing, unsolved part of the tragedy. The discovery of Egbert and Cornelia's remains, located miles from their vehicle, helped reconstruct their final desperate hours. They had walked extensively in a desperate search for help or water. Their story serves as a stark reminder of the desert's extreme and unforgiving nature, especially Death Valley. It's an environment where even small mistakes can have fatal consequences. The tragedy highlights critical lessons about desert safety. Adequate water supplies, reliable navigation, appropriate vehicle choices, and staying on marked routes are paramount for survival. Even experienced travelers can fall prey to the desert's dangers if unprepared for its unique challenges. The incident underscores the importance of respecting such a powerful environment. The story of the Death Valley Germans, as they were dubbed by the media, became a cautionary tale. Their disappearance and eventual partial discovery resonated globally as a warning. While the partial discovery offered some closure, the unanswered questions, particularly regarding the children, ensure their story continues to prompt discussion and further searches. The German family's tragic journey in Death Valley serves as a poignant memorial to all who underestimate the power of nature. Their story endures as a vital desert survival lesson. Death Valley is known as one of the hottest places on Earth. On July 10, 1913, the highest ambient air temperature ever recorded was 134 degrees Fahrenheit at Furnace Creek. Within Death Valley lies Badwater Basin, North America's lowest elevation point at 282 feet, 86 meters below sea level. This geological feature contributes to its extreme weather conditions. By October 1994, Anvil Canyon was designated an official wilderness area under the Desert Protection Act. This legally prohibited public vehicle access, making the minivan's presence highly unusual. Tom Mahood, a geodesist and volunteer searcher, became deeply invested in the case. His scientific approach to tracking human movement in vast wilderness played a crucial role in the eventual discovery. Mahood utilized his expertise to map potential survival paths, considering factors like water sources and lines of sight. His methodical research led him to the remote region where the remains were found. The discovery by Mahood and Walker was against immense odds. Death Valley's vastness makes finding even a large group challenging, let alone tracing a family's final steps over 13 years. Advancements in forensic techniques over the 13 years also aided in identifying the remains. While DNA evidence wasn't the sole factor, It certainly streamlined the identification process. The discovery confirmed the dire fears of Heike Weber and many others. The family had perished in the desert. It provided a somber yet necessary conclusion to years of agonizing uncertainty. This incident serves as a crucial educational tool for park services globally. They emphasize the critical need for tourists to be fully aware of environmental risks and prepare accordingly. The persistence of volunteers like Tom Mahood and Les Walker highlights the invaluable role private citizens play in search and rescue. Their dedication often fills gaps left by official searches. Since 1996, navigation technology has significantly advanced. The ubiquity of GPS and satellite phones now offers tools not available to the family, potentially preventing similar tragedies. Ultimately, the incident is a poignant reminder of the human element in wilderness survival. Even with technology, human judgment, preparation, and respect for nature remain paramount. Though the case of the Death Valley Germans is largely closed, the search for Georg and Max, the two children, conceptually continues. Their disappearance keeps the investigation active for some. The story of the Death Valley Germans remains a potent reminder of both human fragility and resilience. It's a dark chapter in Death Valley's history, etched into the landscape itself. To Egbert Rimkus, Georg Weber, Cornelia Meyer, and Max Meyer, may their memory inspire greater caution and respect for the wild. Their story is a silent teacher for all adventurers. When planning your own desert adventure, remember the lessons from Death Valley. Always research your route thoroughly, carry ample water, and inform someone of your plans. Pack emergency supplies, a first aid kit, signaling mirror, flashlight, and extra food. Never rely solely on electronic devices. Paper maps and compasses are vital backups. Always stay on marked paths and avoid shortcuts, especially in unfamiliar terrain like Death Valley. What appears faster may hide hidden dangers that vehicles and individuals aren't equipped for. The story of the Death Valley Germans is a powerful narrative. What thoughts or lessons did you take away from this tragic event? Share your insights and experiences in the comments below.